On Saturday, May 13, Gabriela Palomino and I, Catalina Olivari, were selected to do a reinforcement lesson to a group of children between 13 and 17 years old, which belong to the Access program and who have an elementary level of English.
Regarding the sequence of this video, we are going to focus firstly on the strengths, that means the things that we consider were done well during the lesson, and then we will focus on the weaknesses, that means the things that we consider were not done well during the lesson.
The model that we have chosen to structure our lesson is the Sheltered Immersion Observation Protocol Model, or SIOP, which have 5 stages. The first stage is motivation, in which students build background through linking their experiences with their prior knowledge. This one was translated into our warm-up activity called picture storytelling.
Years ago, when I was a child, I was with my family on a trip, and I was so curious about the nature that was surrounding me that I didn't notice was a spider, a big spider, was falling down from the tree and I was so scared because it was horrible.
The second stage corresponds to the presentation, which means to present the objectives of the lesson as well as to provide comprehensible input including the feedback. This was translated into our explanatory review about the different past tenses and the use of connectors.
It's a completed action with a specific time in the past. The action completed is that Nina took a beautiful picture in the past.
The third stage of this model stands for practice of the content presented previously. This was translated into the fill-in-the-gap activities about past tenses and connectors.
The fourth stage is application, in which students have to apply what they have learned. This was translated into our final activity called storytelling.
I was on a trip and we saw the landscape. It was so beautiful, but the weather was not my company.
The fifth and final stage of this model is the closure or review, but it wasn't done because of the lack of time.
The main objective of our lesson was to provide the students an overall view about the content studied in previous lessons, which was about past tenses and connectors, in order to apply it in the construction of a fictional anecdote through cooperative working, having trips as the main topic.
We consider that one of the most successful parts of our lesson was the beginning with the warm-up activity for 3 main reasons. In the first place, we decided to show them as a way of example of the activity that they will perform later, a brief and funny story represented by ourselves. In this way, we tried to create an instance in which students felt more relaxed without tension by creating a symmetrical relationship with them.
This is me. It's about Miss Kada. What do you think that was my trip about? I think you were very scared. Yes, yes. Maybe your trip was on a forest. Yeah, forest. Years ago, when I was a child, I was with my family on a trip, and I was so curious about the nature that was surrounding me that I didn't notice was a spider, a big spider, was falling down from the tree and I was so scared because it was horrible.
So that allowed that the affective filter was reduced from the beginning. Affective filter is the term that Stephen Krashen, 1982, used to refer to all the negative emotional and motivational factors that may interfere with the reception and processing of comprehensible input such as anxiety, motivation, and self-confidence. So, through this activity, we achieve to decrease their affective filter, and we feel that this enables the students to continue participating in further activities without being afraid to ask questions.
The second aspect that we highlight about our warm-up activity was having provided the students the opportunity to use learning strategies. Learning strategies are specific actions, behaviors, steps, or techniques that the students use to improve their efficiency in the development of their skills in the foreign language. Oxford, 1990, mentions that these strategies may facilitate the internalization, the storage, the recovery, or the use of a new language. For this reason, learning strategies are essential tools for the development of communication skills.
Oxford claims that there are two kinds of strategies, direct strategies and indirect strategies. Regarding direct strategies, which involve directly the target language, we emphasize the social one by giving the instruction, work in pairs and guess your partner's anecdote. In this aspect, social strategies help learners to relate with other people in order to increase the possibilities of interaction in the target language, since the role of partners in communication are not only to speak, but also to listen to each other, adjust their conversation to others, use nonverbal gestures, ask questions, and react in order to improve the communicative competence.
Moreover, our warm-up activity allowed the students to learn taking into account their different learning styles, which are a way to help improve the quality of learning. By understanding their own personal styles, students can adapt the learning process and techniques they use. For our analysis, we have considered the model of learning style proposed by Fleming, 2001. According to this model, most people possess a dominant or preferred learning style. However, some people have a mixed and evenly balanced blend of the three styles: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic.
In the case of our warm-up activity, since students were working in pairs with drawings made by themselves, they had the opportunity to, for visual learners, to think in pictures and to create vivid mental images to retain information, to demonstrate their visual skills, for example, in creating visual metaphors and analogies and in interpreting visual images. For auditory learners, to think in words rather than the images created, to learn through talking things and listen to what others have to say, to demonstrate their auditory skills, for example, in listening, speaking, storytelling, explaining, etc. And finally, for kinesthetic learners, to express themselves through nonverbal communication as gestures besides their drawings, to demonstrate their skills in using body language, expressing emotion through the body, etc.
Finally, we consider that our final activity, storytelling, was very successful since the students demonstrated enthusiasm by participating actively in the activity in their groups, and because they demonstrated have achieved the objectives of the lesson since they used past tenses and connectors. We believe that it had good results since it was an activity performed in groups and with designated roles to each student. According to Vygotsky, social interactions are important not only for providing an authentic context for learning and for supporting the development of social skills, but because they actually shape the way people develop their higher mental functions.
This activity was based on the cooperative learning approach. According to Johnson & Johnson 1989, cooperative learning experiences promote more positive attitudes toward the instructional experience than competitive or individualistic methodologies. In addition, cooperative learning should result in positive effects on a student's achievement and retention of information. Moreover, according to Jacobs 1998, students' teams often function most effectively by giving each group member a specific role to perform.
The third stage of our lesson was practice, where students were supposed to answer the exercises about different past tenses as well as connectors in a worksheet that we have previously handed out. After finishing each exercise, the teachers were supposed to give the correct answers and to provide feedback.
Who had number 3? I was waiting for half an hour when she finally arrived. The first answer is I had been waiting. Past perfect continuous. When she finally arrived. Yes. With an action or another action, but always in the past. So here the correct answers. The first one is however. Then we have, you know what is the second one? Firstly, yes. The third one is because? Yes, because. The fourth, number 4. Besides? Yes.
We have selected this one as our least successful part of the lesson since we did the corrections of these exercises quickly, without time for giving a meaningful feedback. In this aspect, we highlight the lack of negotiation of meaning. Michael Long, in his interaction hypothesis, claims that negotiation of meaning refers to the process through which the speakers go to clearly comprehend one another. This includes strategies like asking for clarification, rephrasing, and confirming what has already been understood throughout the conversation.
Taking this into account, we strongly believe that the time to correct the exercise and to give respective feedback had to have been in a more interactive way between the same students by monitoring from teachers, for example, by giving the opportunity to compare their answers. This is because interaction and negotiation of meaning between speakers generate a more comprehensible input and output, provide students more opportunities to use the foreign language with a wider variety of linguistic functions, and activate even the use of different learning styles.
Since we were in charge of the last class of the day, we had to deal with exhausted students who are continuously asking, "What time is it?" expecting to return to their homes soon. This was a challenge for us, and after doing the class, it led us to reflect about the importance of the teacher's attitude during the lesson. We have realized that it is essential for a teacher to show enthusiasm in order to motivate the students and to keep them attentive to the class, for example, through telling funny stories, doing games relating with the content, showing videos, etc. Of course, it is convenient to tell the learners the importance of each activity, emphasizing the fact that those are useful for the study of the content as a way to make the learners more aware and committed with their own process of learning.
After doing this class and reflecting about it, we came to the conclusion that we are going to work in our training as teachers in order to maintain an adequate control of emotions, ideas, judgments, and didactics in our future classes, taking into account the feelings and motivation of our students. We will try to be firm on the principles of collaborative work, establishing effective points that will favor the process of teaching and learning. And finally, as we made mistakes in our first teaching experience, we will try to listen carefully, to acknowledge our mistakes, and to work for correcting them. As well as in the future, we are going to teach our students to see their own mistakes, not as a source of punishment, but as a source of learning.